representing the Hunt Museum, and she's going to talk about the physical digital. You might not have seen what she's going to talk about, but we're going to invite you to have a tour on your way up.
Yes, hopefully. I really enjoyed actually what Professor Bannon was talking about with the connections. And one of the, what I really wanted to talk about today was actually one of the ways in which we can look at digital as a sort of a miniaturization of the physical. And a miniaturization not only in the physical sense, but also in a conceptual way. You know, we are trying to pare down through digital media, through the types of computing, through the types of machinery and nanotechnology that we are creating. We are trying to pare down any kind of machine to its most basic elements, so that at some level you could have one molecule pushing another molecule, and that being some sort of an engine, almost. And what I'd like to talk about right now is just in the way that a place like this, which is a very old building full of very old, very physical things, which are, you know, decidedly not digital at all. How do we maintain relevance? How do we interpret that conversation and connect that conversation that people are having through things like Connected Limerick, that you all are having with your mobiles and typing away on your iPads and other bits of sexy technology? And how do we keep this stuff in the cases relevant? How do we connect that to what's going out in the ether? A project that Michael Fernstrom and I worked on for the last year that really came to fruition in October was a steampunk exhibition, and that exhibition was really in many ways about reinterpreting the objects in the Hunt collection now with the same sort of nostalgia that steampunkers today look at and interpret the sort of Victorian machinery and very heavy, very industrial technology of the time of really important and exciting inventions around around vulcanization of rubber, the development of vulcanization of rubber, around the really globalization of machinery and technical knowledge. I wanted to, I feel like I've done about 3 minutes, so I feel like I've got 2 left, and I'll stick to it, because I'm like that. But what I want to say, really, in relation to the steampunk exhibition, in relation to Hunt Museum, is that these, in many ways, the way in which we're currently using technology to connect each other is to connect in the cloud. We're talking about having all of our music in the cloud. We no longer have to have CDs. We don't even have to have a storage drive in our houses to watch our old episodes of Firefly. Now we can have that loaded up somewhere that won't burn down. And this is really about the depositing of memory and memories. And moving the physical memories that we currently carry around with us, paring them down and keeping them someplace in an abstract, in a digital format. Obviously that digital format, we're divorcing ourselves more and more from the actual physicality of technology. You know, many of us will never have, we may have done a little operation on our laptops to put more RAM in, maybe we even replaced the hard drive, and if anybody else has a Sony laptop, they know it's a pain. But we don't crack it open on our iPhones, because that's stupid. Because you can't get them back together, and because you're less likely to be able to make them work after you've taken it apart. And there's this increasing divide, this increasing distance between ourselves and our own understanding of the physical technology on which we rely so much. And in many ways, the steampunk exhibition here and the objects in the collection here are also repositories of memory. And so we are looking, and so there's an analogy that can be drawn between the physical objects that we have and this infinite cloud, which is almost like God in the sense. You know, we can't touch it, but we know it's there, reassuring us that our ZZ Top CDs will never be lost, or for me, my Toto CDs, which I promise you I will deny if anybody mentions it, even though Joanne's got it on tape. And so I think the challenge for museums and for people like me who are really into stuff is to help explain and investigate new and creative ways of maintaining that actual physical connection between the way in which people are thinking, the way in which we're constantly paring down to the elemental, constantly paring down to the more abstract, but maintain that and investigate that connection between the increasingly abstract with the much more physical manifestations of memory, manifestations of design, manifestations of art, of thinking, and of human memory that we have. Do I have any more time? Because there's actually one quote I'd like to read, which is the word steampunk was coined in 1987, which was a very good year for the Mets, by a science fiction author called K.W. Jeter. He said, personally, I think Victorian fantasies are going to be the next big thing, something based on the appropriate technology of that era, like steampunks, perhaps. And I think what's very interesting in some of the research that we did around the steampunk exhibition and in the history of steampunk itself was that there is this one particular quote is almost the only physical representation of the development of this idea that there is. It's quoted everywhere. Everywhere do you find this quote, but it's extremely difficult to find the physical article which was written in it, or any kind of real interpretation, a real discussion about steampunk. So it's almost as though this particular memory which we have, the development of this concept, which has been extremely important in creating a countercultural movement which has an entire design aesthetic, an entire visual culture, has been divorced from the actual memory of it. And so I think that that's another area where we can all sort of talk about more things.